Hello, everyone. My name is Alex, and I'm a founder of a company called Credit Lifter. We're based here in New York City, and unfortunately, our city has been devastated by this coronavirus, also known as COVID-19. This virus has been sweeping across America for the past month, devastating and taking lives from small and large cities. Unfortunately, the secondary effects are felt on employers and employees. And today, this presentation is going to be on a number of resources, the stimulus bill that includes $2 trillion from the government to be able to help assist us in our everyday lives. Please take a look at the table of contents. In the interest of time, I'm going to be going over each program very quickly, but you can download this presentation on our website, www.creditlifter.com. A little bit about me. I started on Wall Street in 2007 working for multiple investment companies and banks. And today I help consumers like yourselves fix your credit and get you the loans that you're looking for your business and personal needs. If you have any questions, please contact me at alexanderm@creditlifter.com or dial us at 888-696-5108. We're working as usual. Our agents are on standby helping businesses get some relief and funding to be able to move forward through this disaster and crisis. The first item on our agenda is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Assistance Program. What we do know is the Federal Reserve has allocated a large sum of money to be administered through the SBA program to small businesses. We know that there's 30 million small businesses in the United States. Therefore, this program is going to be oversubscribed. You should submit your applications as quickly as possible. What we also know is your credit score is going to be a factor. So personal credit history will be looked at as a personal guarantee. Small businesses with fewer than 500 employees are eligible across all U.S. states. This program is going to provide up to $2 million to overcome the temporary loss of revenue. Opportunity to receive up to $10,000 advance on the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, also known as EIDL, for emergency capital. In other words, small businesses that are eligible to apply for Economic Injury Disaster Loan will be able to, within days, to assess up to $10,000 without a requirement to make a payment, even if their disaster loan application is denied. That means when you go on to the application process, on page 4, you're going to see that they give you a chance to check off a $10,000 assistance box. If you check it off, even if your application is denied, they will still grant you the $10,000. So take advantage and apply right away. Now, the loans could be used to keep employees on payroll, to pay for sick leave, meet increased production costs due to supply chain disruptions, or pay business obligations, including debt, rent, and mortgage payments. This assistance program will be up to a 30-year term, 3.75% for small businesses, and 2.75% for nonprofits. As you can tell, I have provided a link here for this application, COVID-19 relief.sba.gov. This is the third revision to the application. It has gotten much more simple, and it looks like the Federal Reserve and the SBA is lowering their thresholds to be able to be eligible for this program. What we also know is you can be approved solely based on your FICO score, not your repayment ability. No tax return form required. Prior bankruptcy does not disqualify you. So we urge you to go out there and apply for this program as quickly as possible and see if you're eligible. Worst case scenario, you can be eligible to get $10,000 from the government for your business. Now, additional information to process your application may be necessary. The bank will require some information and they'll get in contact with you, usually by a phone call. So ahead of time, start thinking about this information. You will need most likely a tax return for 2018 or the most recent tax return, a profit and loss statement, and of course the sales and the balance sheet figures. So the banks are going to be looking for this information. We don't know which yet, but start thinking about it so you can be ready when the application is submitted and someone will give you a call from the SBA administration. Now, it looks like the government has already implemented such programs before, however, not on such a big scale. So the SBA Disaster Loan Program has been used in Hurricane Harvey. And the reason why I bring this up is I wanted to go back and check what people were eligible to get the funding for this program and what were the reasons why they were denied. So let's take a look. And the reason why is we want all of our clients to have the best chance of approval. If you take a look at the link that I put at the bottom of the screen, sba.gov/sites default, you're going to be able to drill into that particular program and find out a lot of similarities to what they have now. It looks like the businesses were eligible for up to $2 million in funding, and they were eligible to repair or replace disaster damaged property owned by the businesses, including real estate, inventory, supplies, machinery, equipment. So it's quite similar to what we have now. Now, take a look at it here. What were the credit requirements? Applicants must have a credit history acceptable to the SBA. Applicants must show the ability to repay all loans. So this looks like it has been waived. Collateral is required for physical loss over $25,000 and all IDL loan over $25,000. So what was the reason SBA loan applications would be declined? SBA is generally able to approve about 50% of disaster applications received. The majority of declines are due to low credit scores. Applicants with credit scores below SBA limit are automatically declined. Please keep in mind that the SBA guidelines keep changing day to day. Literally, they've been revised 3 or 4 times since I've looked at it in the past week. So it's important to keep in line with the guidelines, and it's important to look at the specific information. The devil's in the details. So from your perspective as a business owner, I think it's important to check your credit and make sure that if your credit's not high enough, you still have time to give it a little bit of a boost. And that is possible, of course. Now, take a look at a link I provided here for you at Identity IQ. Now, there's a number of resources where you can go on and check your credit score. And keep in mind, Credit Karma is not the best source because they use Vantage scores instead of the real FICO scores. I've included a link to Identity IQ. And this is what we use for our customers to be able to have an insight into their credit reports, Experian, TransUnion, Equifax, all together. Look at them in conjunction to each other and see if there's any inaccuracies on there, and we can dispute with the credit bureaus and the financing companies. We suggest you look at your credit prior to application. It's very, very important. Now, for those businesses that already have an existing SBA loan, there's something called an SBA Express Bridge loan. So the government has basically provided $25,000 that you can access as quickly as possible without much paperwork. So it's just a quick facility to be able to inject you with cash, and you can go on to this sba.gov/page to take a look at the information that you need to apply for it. In the recent weeks, the Federal Reserve has provided a new program they call Paycheck Protection Program, also known as the PPP, to fight the unemployment rates that are skyrocketing in America because of COVID-19. So we know those unemployment rates are going to continue to rise because we are all quarantined and a lot of people cannot go to work. Now, they provided around $349 billion to allocate to employers as an incentive to keep their employees on their payroll. For this program, the credit score is not going to be a factor. No personal guarantee is needed or collateral. This is going to be very different from the program that we just looked at. The loan will be fully forgiven if the funds are used for payroll costs, interest on mortgage, rent, and utilities. Keep in mind, this particular program is going to be oversubscribed for sure. At least 70% of the forgiven amount must have been used for payroll. Now, the small businesses that are under 500 employees in all U.S. states are eligible for this program. And this program opened up as of April the 3rd for small businesses and sole proprietorships. And it's going to be opened up on April the 10th for independent contractors, self-employed, 1099. Let's take a look at the details of this PPP program. Here's what it says. Business must be operational as of February 15, 2020, and had employees for whom it paid salaries and payroll taxes or paid independent contractors. If your business was harmed during February 15, 2020 to June 30th, 2020, you are going to be eligible. The program is retroactive to February 15, 2020. That means if you have already laid off your employees, you can actually bring them back on the payroll and the government will pay for them. The loan has a maximum of maturity of 10 years and an interest rate of no more than 1%. If you were in business February 15, 2019 to June 30th, 2019, what they're going to look at is your payrolls. So your maximum loan amount is going to equal to 250% of your average monthly payroll costs during that time period, plus an additional 25% of that. And we'll show you how to do the calculations in just a little bit. Now, this program will not cover employee/owner compensation over $100,000 on an annual basis. And new and seasonal businesses, they'll use a different time period. Now, I've included a link here for you for this program, sbc.senate.gov, where you can find out the program details. I would like to highlight that this is the most important program in the presentation and the most lucrative and attractive to business owners. The reason why is because this particular program allows you to forgive up to 8 weeks of payroll. So you can write off everything that you've spent the money on and the rest will become a loan. So let's look at the attractive features again. Maximum loan amount is up to 10 million with a 10-year term. Now, a lot of the applications are being processed right now as we speak. So in practice, it looks like it's about 1% with 2-year terms. Now, the credit score does not matter. It's unsecured and no personal guarantee up to 200,000. Initially, it's an SBA loan administered by any bank, credit union, and fintech. If you used SBA loan to pay for your payroll, rent, and other expenses, up to 8 weeks can be forgiven. You must show the bank payroll, rent, etc. to eliminate from the loan. So won't pay income taxes on the forgiven amount, 6 months of deferral with a maximum deferral up to a year, 1% interest, 0 SBA fees, 0 prepayment fees. This program is basically government giving you a loan to pay for all your payrolls and any expenses to keep your business alive. Everything else that you don't use up in the first two months of this program is going to roll over into a loan. I urge you to go to the SBA website for the details on the PPP program, so you can see what costs are eligible for payroll, what costs are not eligible for payroll. This is going to be very important for forgiveness factor. In this slide, you'll find the highlights of each program here, the PPP versus the EIDL when you look at them side by side. They're both very attractive and they will help a lot of businesses out. Please try to apply to both and contact your accountants for details. Now take a look at the payroll tax credit here. I've provided a link to the sbc.senate.gov where you can find out the program details. Now this provision will provide a refundable payroll tax credit for 50% of wages paid by eligible employers to certain employees. The credit is also provided to employers who have experienced a greater than 50% reduction in quarterly receipts measured on year-over-year basis. So they're going to be looking for 50% reduction in your sales. Businesses with 500 employees or less are eligible. For employers with 100 or fewer full-time employees, all employee wages are eligible for this program. Now, business was suspended in part or full-time because of government. So if you were forced to shut down because of the government, you're also eligible for this program. The credit is provided for wages and compensation, including health benefits, and is provided for the first $10,000 in wages and compensations paid by the employer to any eligible employee. The credit is provided through December 31st, 2020. Now, I know I've thrown a lot of numbers here at you. Try to stay with me. There's still a lot of information we have to get through. We're about halfway through the presentation. Now, there's $300 billion that has been set aside, and this money is for individual American adults who make up to $75,000 a year, who will also be eligible to receive a direct payment of $1,200. $2,400 for those who are married and file income taxes jointly. $500 per child. If you earn more than $75,000 as an individual, $112,500 as the head of household, or $150,000 if you're married and filing jointly, the amount of those checks starts to get reduced. Checks will be reduced by $5 for every $100 exceeding those thresholds. It completely phases out at $99,000 in the income for individuals, $146,500 for head of household filers with one child, and $198,000 for joint filers with no children. The stimulus checks will be sent to people based off of their 2018 or 2019 tax returns, whichever was filed last. Your checks will be sent to the address that IRS has on file in relation to your 2018 or 2019 tax form. Social Security recipients will not have to file tax return to receive a stimulus check. Your check based on Social Security Administration information is going to be sent to you. Our next stop is the unemployment assistance. The federal government has set aside $260 billion for unemployment. They're going to give you an additional $600 per week from the federal government on top of what you receive from the state. They're going to do this for 4 months. Example, if you receive $340 from the state, you're going to receive another $600 from the federal government to give you a $940 for the next 4 months. There's a 13-week extension for unemployment benefits. U.S. government is anticipating that this COVID-19 is going to harm us in the long run. So they've extended those unemployment benefits to you. Temporary pandemic employment benefits for gig freelancer workers. Example, if you work for Uber, Lyft, and your income is affected, you can apply for pandemic unemployment assistance program until the end of 2020. Now, this program was never available before, and if you work as a gig or freelancer, you should apply now. Your federal income tax filing due date has been extended to July 15, 2020. You can refer over to the irs.gov website, but it says taxpayers can also defer federal income tax payments due on April 15th to July 15th without penalties, interest, regardless of the amount owed. This deferment applies to all taxpayers, including individuals, trusts, estates, corporations, and other non-corporate tax filers, as well as those who pay self-employment tax. So, you don't have to file until July 15th. In the next few slides, we're going to go over how to deal with debt. So a lot of us out there have auto payments. We have mortgages, credit cards, other loans outstanding. And of course, we don't have the means to pay for those right now. So because of the federal government, the orders have been passed down to the banks to be able to help you and assist you with those payments. So the banks have been terrific at postponing those payments and helping you out in different types of situations. They're not reporting that you're late on the payment to the credit bureaus. Let's take a look at a few instances how they're able to provide you some assistance. So many credit card issuers have released statements on their websites announcing several kinds of assistance for your consumer during the COVID-19 outbreak. Available help includes credit line increases, and yes, we've seen that for multiple banks. Collection of forbearance, that happens every day right now, and the banks are very busy. If you try to call in, they're on the line helping a lot of customers. Skip payments, that's one of the things that they do as well. Now, Fannie and Freddie Mac, which back around 95% of all of our mortgages out there, they're ordering loan providers to provide assistance in the form of mortgage forbearance for up to 1 year. So during the 12-month pause on mortgage payments, penalties and late fees will be waived, and all of the foreclosure sales and evictions are put on hold at least until May 17, 2020, because the courts are closed. At this time, all of the courts are going to be closed through at least May 17th, and most likely through June 1st unless it's extended. Keep in mind, if they wanted to evict you, if you're paying rent, they couldn't evict you right now because the courts are simply closed and you wouldn't be able to do that. Now, negative reporting to the credit bureaus will also be suspended. Now, let's take a look at a few individual examples by a few companies and how they're assisting you through this difficult time. Marcus by Goldman Sachs is letting customers defer payments for a month of March on their personal loans and their Apple Card without accruing interest. U.S. Bank is also temporarily lowering costs for consumers interested in personal loans, and Fifth Third is offering payment forbearance for the mortgage and home equity loan customers. Bank of America is also waiving payments on mortgages and home equity products on request, and Wells Fargo is offering fee waivers, payment deferrals, and other assistance for auto, mortgage, credit card, and personal lending customers who reach out and inquire. So all you need to do is call your bank and ask for assistance. They are willing to help you. Call in and you will be pleasantly surprised. Some of you may recall that in the aftermath of 2008 financial crisis, U.S. government nationalized two very important companies, Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae, and they back most of our mortgages. Because of this order, right now it's very easy for the government to be able to issue a forbearance order on most of the mortgages that are outstanding. So if you have a mortgage fairly backed 1 to 4 family dwellings, you can call your bank and ask them for forbearance, and they should be able to supply you with that. This will apply to about 60 to 65% of the population. Everyone has a mortgage outstanding. So what must a borrower submit to be entitled to forbearance? The borrower may request up to 180 days, and upon borrower's request, the period must be extended for up to 180 days additionally. So what about late fees, penalties, and interest? No fees, penalties, or interest beyond the amount scheduled or calculated, as if the borrower made all contractual payments on time and in full under the terms of the mortgage contract, will be permitted to accrue on the borrower's account. So if you call any of your banks and you ask for forbearance, they have to grant it to you. So if you own any of these vehicles and you have an auto loan outstanding, you can call your bank and they can help you defer those payments as well due to COVID-19. So let's take a look at a few different scenarios when we're dealing with rent. So unfortunately, the commercial landlords are not protected in this scenario because they own multifamily dwellings over 5. So that means Fannie and Freddie is not backing these mortgages, and unfortunately, these commercial landlords are stuck making the payments. So as of now, banks are not obligated to postpone commercial landlord rents. While banks are working with tenants, many tenants are forced to pay as of April 1st. So from our conversation so far, this is what we heard. Unfortunately, commercial landlords are stuck making those payments, and we'll see how that situation ensues. Now, if you're a tenant, tenants are entitled to delay of an eviction through May 31st if they cannot pay rent because of financial or medical circumstances caused by coronavirus. To qualify, renters must have lost their job or hours at work or have had to take care of children whose schools are closed or family members with COVID-19. So, tenants also must notify their landlords in writing no later than 7 days after this rent is due, or by April 8th or May 8th if they're unable to pay. So do notify your landlords that you cannot pay. Most states have an eviction ban until June 1st, 2020. The courts are closed. So even if the landlord wanted to evict you, he would not be able to evict you until the courts open up. So the landlord can't sue you now, but it would be able to pursue arrears at a later date. So if the landlord sues you in 3 months from now, they'll be entitled to past due rent, attorney fees, or late fees. So our suggestion is to contact your landlord. So landlords have your first and last security deposit. Ask them to use a portion of those funds. Ask your landlord to prorate rent. Some landlords offer incentives if you prepay ahead of time because of the situation that you have now. So definitely have a good communication with your landlord and ask them to reduce the amounts that are due or take those out of those security deposits. So I'm not really sure how many of you out there know about the Fair Credit Reporting Act. It's a very important law that protects you against data furnishers, Experian, TransUnion, Equifax, who control most of the market. But essentially, there's 1 out of every 5 Americans has some type of an issue on their credit report, whether it's because financial institution has reported it incorrectly, or it's because a data furnisher has displayed it incorrectly, and when they calculate your FICO score, unfortunately, your score is much lower than it should be. So in this particular instance, what they're saying is if you are in the forbearance period, meaning if you have contacted your bank and you're skipping a payment or you're late on a payment, they're not going to report this for 120 days. So they don't want to lower your FICO scores as a result. From a data furnisher's perspective, it's business as usual. They'll continue to calculate your FICO scores. The only thing is, banks are not reporting any negative items to them for 120 days. So it's if your FICO scores are going to be somewhat frozen in a sense. If you've had a negative loan that was reporting prior to January 31st, it's going to continue reporting negative until you actually pay it off. We've come to the end of the presentation, and I'll conclude it here for you. I hope I was able to provide you enough information for you to take advantage of the programs that exist out there. We urge you to verify all information with the SBA.gov websites and other websites that we've included in the presentation. We also urge you to contact your accountants, your attorneys, your bookkeepers, and your financial advisors to keep abreast with the information that exists out there and what the lenders are looking for. In the upcoming months, it's going to become even more important to keep a strong credit profile. What we've seen so far is that the banks are not getting defensive, but they are shifting their focus to the stronger credit profiles that exist out there. So they may not lend to some businesses where they will lend to other businesses. They're looking for someone that can show an ability to repay. There has been $2 trillion that has flooded the system, and we estimate there's going to be additional funds that the Federal Reserve will release. The front end, the short end of the curve has completely collapsed. That means the Federal Reserve is supplying the banks with very cheap money, pretty much at 0%. And the banks can pass this money on to you. It's important from your perspective to be able to build a strong profile and take advantage of these programs that exist. If we can answer any questions in regards to credit and funding, you're welcome to contact us. We're at 888-696-5108. Our agents are working around the clock and on the weekends, helping businesses be able to get the funding they're looking for. We appreciate your time. We wish you success and good luck in your business.